Welcome to today's life. Today to do some control systems. I guess just refresh this. Get something maybe last tutorial. Okay. Okay. This is the thing that I was saying yesterday. So this is called the controllable canonical form. So difference between the canonical form and the controllable canonical form is that here we are trying to break it into two parts, right? Like what happens that we have y of s upon u of s, and we try to break it like we try to write y of s upon u of s uh, as like y of s upon x of s into x of s upon u of s, and generally it's the uh, I think yeah, it's the numerator that we consider no, I think it's a denominator that we consider x of s upon u of s because uh, as far as I remember, uh, yeah, I think it's a denominator. Yeah, so it's the denominator that I consider as x of s upon u of s, and then I just take Laplace, and after that, this is the way I solve this equation. So pretty standard method this is, and along with that, afterwards uh, I take the numerator as this, and this is what I get, and then I have to substitute the value of x triple dot from this above equation, and the rest things stay the same, and then I get an equation in y and x, basically the output equation, and it looks a bit different. Uh, looks a bit different uh, than your controllable canonical form, than your normal canonical form, right? So the controllable canonical form is a bit different. That's what I'm trying to say. Uh, Maybe we can also solve a few questions relating to this, which we will in some time. This is, I think, what, lecture 5? This is lecture 4 or lecture 5. Okay, let me upload the files after this.
অত মন খারাপ করার কারণ নেই। আমি বলেছিলাম সূর্যাস্ত পরে আপনারা জিতবেন। ৩ রাউন্ড ৪ রাউন্ড কাউন্ট হলেও এটা ১৪ রাউন্ড থেকে ১৮ রাউন্ড কাউন্ট হয়। তখন আপনারা জিতবেন। ওয়েট অ্যান্ড সি।
I can see a few of my friends, just too happy because our TMC has lost the election this time. I didn't even vote because I had my exams, so I couldn't go back home. Chalo, कोई ना. Yeah, let's upload the file. Where is it? I think E1. ET thing, right? Okay, so I'll upload the fifth one. Okay, let's refresh. And yeah, so as far as I remember, we had something like controllability, observability, and some state observer thing in the whole midterm syllabus. So, okay, this is a canonical form of modeling. What was I doing so far? I was also doing canonical only. Na? State space representation of canonical form. So, you're saying there are two forms. One is the diagonal canonical form, and one is the Jordan canonical form. So, oh, okay, so state models having minimum number of non-zero elements are called as canonical forms. It's based on the concept of partial fraction expansion. So if you have this kind of a transfer function, which is a strictly proper transfer function. Okay, so the difference between strictly proper and proper is that in strictly proper you would have the order of the numerator lesser than the denominator, whereas proper you can also have equal, right? So it's a strictly proper transfer function, and you just split them into the normal partial fraction technique that we do, and then that's the way to find C1, C2, and C3. Normal residue method, and applying residue, uh, you trying to separate this, and that's how it looks like. And then you can write it this way, where your u of s upon s plus lambda 1, this is what you take as x1 of s, this is your x2 of s, and that's your x3 of s. And if you just do the same thing, like if you take Laplace and manipulate it, right, then this is what you get, uh, and this is what you get in y, right? Okay, okay. So x1 of s, then you x1, c1, c2, c3. Okay, so c1 is just the constant, right? It's pretty easy. What is this method called? Diagonal chemical form. Fine, fine. Okay. Okay, that's it. That was too short. Okay, so there are like integrators and you know pictures for each of the block. So this is a y, this is your input, and as we saw that relation with, so this is the place where you're showing the relation between your input and your states, and then this is how the states are being converted to outputs. That is your c1 x1 plus c2 x2 plus c3 x3 is equal to y, and this is the general equation. If you see, this is your x2, so you have lambda to x2, and this is where you have u, so your x2 dot is equal to u minus lambda to x2. Same goes for x3 and x1, so pretty basic stuff, not difficult actually. Yeah, so this is a book that our prof always follows, this D. Roy Chaudhary. This is the same book that I need to do for control, for digital control as well. But the problem is, previously I used to do water, and even the lectures available on YouTube, I followed water. So there could be some difference. Let's see. Uh, okay, so I've uploaded the sixth document, which is this one. Um, and there's also the diagonal form, but it's part two. Um, So now we're doing it for a proper transfer function. That is, the degree of numerator could be equal to denominator. So the difference is just that this time you could have a quotient, right? A non-zero quotient you can have. You can have a non-zero quotient. So you take that out. That is your P3, and you write it this way. Basically creating it, and now you have a remainder, right? And like you have an extra term P3, and so basically you have got some D matrix, right? I think the A and B are still the same, but you've got some D matrix this time, and the only change in the block diagram is this. There's some relation between the output and the input this time, which didn't exist so far. So that's your that is your so yeah, C1 upon S plus 2. So the very basic method for diagonal form is that you decompose it using partial fractions, and then you figure out what's your C1 and C2. And once you're able to do that, this whole thing will be your x1 of S, and this whole thing will be your x2 of S. And then you can just write your your diagonal form using this method. It says the system matrix A is always in diagonal form. Yeah, so in this approach, each state equation is a first order state equation. Yeah, yeah, decoupling of the state equation is possible. Basically, by decoupling, what they're trying to say is you can separate x1 dot, x2 dot, and x3 dot. Due to diagonal nature of the system matrix, it's useful in determination of state transition matrix, controllability, and observability, all of that stuff. So similar to companion form, diagonal canonical form is not the it's not the physical. Okay, do I have my uh, do I have screen shared? Yeah, I'll just share the screen. So similar to companion form, diagonal canonical form is not the physical variable are difficult to measure and control practically. Okay, let's go to the next slide, which is about controllability. Okay, so that's my controllability slide. It says talks about the concept of controllability testing, and then there are examples of these two tests. So you're saying if this is your answer function, so what will be A matrix? This will be your so your A0 is minus 2, so you will write minus A0, that is 2. A1 is 1, so this becomes minus 1. And how do you figure out B? Uh, See, now this is your y of s upon u of s, right? So your B must be elements here, right? That's how it should be. So, so if that is it, then like see s into u, so that will be 0 because as we generally consider derivatives to be 0, and then it will be minus b0, right? And then if I take like that to this side, so it will become plus 1, right? Now, how do I decide C? That's also one thing. Uh, Maybe it's better if I just take a whiteboard and solve it, right? Yeah, that's what I should be doing. Let's take a whiteboard. Okay, so I need to share this link first. Let's do that with my WhatsApp, let's say. Okay, so I'm just trying to understand that how did I get these particular matrices. Okay, so that's how you write the code in MATLAB. So you write the first row, then a colon, and then the second row. Same for the B matrix, same for the C, for the D matrix, and that's how you construct your transfer function. So basically, the thing is that you don't have the numerator and the denominator. There are other state matrices, the state space matrices. So you will use this SS2TF function, which is the conversion function to go from state space to transfer function, right? And these will be numerator and denominator, and then you will write TF stands for transfer function. So it is numerator upon denominator. That's your system, right? It's a system's transfer function. Okay, now let me try to figure out that how did I get this. Uh, okay, so what was given to me is this, that my g of s is equal to s minus 1 upon s square plus s minus 2. So if we use the conventional method, this is what I would get. And then if I just try to, let's say, take it this way, so it will be y double dot plus y dot minus 2y equal to minus u. And then I generally know that I take y equal to x1, y dot equal to x2, and y double dot equal to x2 dot. This would be x2 dot plus x2 minus 2x1 equal to minus u. And then I would get my x2 dot equal to minus x2 plus 2x1 minus u. So from there, I would have that's it, right? So from there, I think my my A matrix, if I'm talking about, so I have two equations. One is this x1 dot equal to x2 and x2 dot equal to this. So it should be minus it should be 2 minus 1, right? Because 2 for x1 minus 1 here, and for the x1 equation it should be 1, and here I should have 0. It should be 0 1 2 minus 1. So my A is sorted, right? Now coming to your B matrix. So your B should be just 0, because, yeah, 0 and minus 1, right? But they have written 0 and 1, that's the problem. Okay, so I need to figure this out, right? And also, from where did they get C and all of this stuff? Um, okay, let's rather do it this way, that I just break it down, and let me write this, and then if I have my x of s upon u of s equal to the denominator, let's say, right, and then I'll have x double dot plus x dot minus 2x equal to u, right? And then what can I write? So, and then I just start taking x1 and x2 variables. So it will be x2 dot plus x2 minus 2x1 equal to u, and my x1 dot is x2, and my x2 dot is plus 2x1 minus x2 plus u. So from there you would get that my A matrix is basically how much? 0, 1, 2 minus 1, right? And from there your B matrix would be 0 and 1 because of the u in the next two dot equation, right? So and then if I take my y of s upon x of s, that is the other part, equal to s minus 1, so I would get that my y is equal to x dot minus x, and if I just replace the value for x dot, no, but my question is that I'm trying to write x dot. Yeah, so when I'm trying to write x dot, let me think about this. Okay, pretty simple. So x is x1 now. X is x1, and x dot is what? X dot is actually x2, right? So this would be x2 minus x1, so, or minus x1 plus x2. So then when you write it in this form, it should be minus 1 1 into x1 x2. Sorry, not this. Minus 1 1 x1 x2, right? And then your d is equal to 0, right? That's fine. Okay, so that's a MATLAB command for this. And then when you get your numerator and denominator, I think it's pretty chill. Uh, Okay. Same thing I've just implemented in MATLAB. Um, okay, and the thing is, see, this is how you can get the step response, right? Like you have the system, right? So you can actually plot step of ABCD, and that's the way you get, like this is the way to get different plots together. So then you mention the subplot function. So there are two plots that you want. Uh, There's the first one, and then you can actually convert that thing to the system, right? You can mention it as sys1 and write df of num comma denominator, and you can check that if your step response is the same. But you can see that it's the same in both the cases, right? For step space, for state space, and for the transfer function approach. Okay, so now we'll see something called partial fraction expansion. It's the RPK thing. So there's a function, there's a very standard function in MATLAB. So this is my transfer function. So this is how my transfer function looks like. Um, what is my RPNK? Let me just search what are RPK in MATLAB. Okay, so RPK is basically when you decompose this into partial fractions, and your uh, your coefficients are basically the R thing, right? Your P are the poles when you do that, and K is the remainder, right? So let's try to do the same way. So it's nothing but just polynomial division, I guess. First you would have 7s, so 7s cubed plus 21s square plus 14s. So you would have minus 11s and minus 19s square, and then you would have minus 19 minus 57s plus minus would have 46s and how much? Minus 1. Yeah, so what I was saying is this thing that this would be my quotient then, right? So I can write it uh, this way that it is basically 7s minus 19 into my denominator, right? Because if you see this, that is actually my denominator, so plus denominator plus r of s, which is actually this thing, right, upon the denominator. So this is actually the residue term plus your r of s upon d of s, right? And the residue term, that is your k term actually, you can get from here. Okay, so now what you have is basically this thing, s square plus 3s minus 2. Uh, that would be your, was it s square plus 3s plus 2? Sorry, s plus 2. And you can very well see the factors are minus 1 and minus 2. So you can try to break it. You can write c1 upon s plus 1 plus c2 upon s plus 2 uh, is equal to 46 upon s minus, sorry. Uh, this thing is actually equal to 46 s minus 1 upon the denominator again, right? And if you just expand, you would realize that your s will have c1 plus c2, and then the constant term would be 2c1 plus c2, and is equal to 46s plus 1, right? Plus or minus? Minus 1. Okay. And then what you would get is c 2c1 plus c2 equal to minus 1, and c1 plus c2 equal to 46. So you would have your 3c1 equal to 45. Sorry, just trying to subtract. Sorry, so your c1 should be equal to minus 47, and I think somehow I've done some mistake, I'm not sure where. Let's just check once maybe. Okay, let's try. Yeah, till this it is fine. Okay, I'm really sorry. This division, I fucked up the division. I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry for this. I don't know I could act this dumb, but fine when it has happened once. So if you're dividing, actually get 7s at first. So 7s cube plus 21s square plus 14s. So you would have minus 19s square and minus 11s minus 1. And then you got minus 19. So it would be minus 19s square minus 57s minus 38. So gets cancelled. That's 46s, and you would have 37 here. Right, so now your equation would be the change would be that this thing would change. So the coefficient of s still stays the same till 46, but this thing would become 37. And as this becomes 37, now if you do this, this would be minus 9. So your C1, yeah, it's matching, it is minus 9. And then if you put this minus 9 here, so your C2 would become 46 plus 9, that is 55. So then your R matrix would be 55 and minus 9. And what would be the poles? They would just be 55 is corresponding to which one? 55 is C2. So C2 is basically, I think, corresponding to S plus 2. So then it has to be minus 2 and minus 1. What are my two poles? S square plus 3s plus 2 was the equation, right? So minus 1 and minus 2. Minus 1 and minus 2. This is a mistake. This is a small mistake that they've done. Yeah, if you're writing 55 first, yeah, you will be minus 2 and minus 1. That is fine. Okay, now let's come to controllability. So the definition says that if the system state transferred from any initial state xt naught to any other desired state xtf in specified finite time where control vector u of t is possible, right? So basically, the idea is that if you are able to, like considering some t equal to t naught as the initial time, right? T equal to t naught is the initial time. So uh, if you're able to, and let's say at this point your system was at the state x of t naught, right? So if you're able to send your system from x of t naught to x of tf, right? By this time period, that is tf minus t naught is finite, right? By this particular time period is finite, and this if you're able to do with the help of some control vector u of t, then you would say that the system is state controllable, right? So the idea is that you have certain system states, right? And you apply some u of t, some control law, okay? And you get the final state. So this is your x of t naught, this is your u of t, and that's your x of tf, right? So another two tests. How do you decide whether a system is controllable or not? So the idea is that if you can represent the system in the state space form, that is x dot equal to ax plus bu, right? Then your controllability matrix will be given by b, ab, a square b, and then goes on till a to the power n minus 1 into b, where your n is the order of the system. Right? So if you have, let's say, if this is your 2 cross 2, so then your QC would just be B and AB, because your n would be 2, so you have to stop at AB, right? So there's a long proof for this, which is nothing but a solution of a differential equation. So the idea is that if you have this particular equation, ax plus bu, uh, what you can do is you can just write this in the Laplace form. So this will become s into xs. This will become s into xs, a xs plus b us, and then if you shift it to the side, this will just become si minus a into xs equal to b into us. So then your xs becomes si minus a inverse into bu of s, right? So see, now the idea is that uh, probably something like this, that if you now try to write, like if you now try to take inverse Laplace, uh, now see, this is more like there are two Laplace, right? One is si minus a inverse and one is your u of s. So if you try to take the inverse Laplace. So you must be aware of this property that if I have my x of s equal to x1s into x2s, then uh, generally what I have as my x of t is probably getting some convolution property I have. Let me just go through the property, the convolution property in Laplace. Uh, yeah. So as they are saying that Laplace of x of t into g of t would be x of s into g of s. So therefore, sorry, I mean convolution. So then x of t convoluted to g of t would also be equal to Laplace inverse of x of s into g of s. So then basically it's a convolution, right? And then as it's a convolution, what you can understand from here is that you need to identify, I think, both of the equations. So if this is your fi minus a inverse b into u of s, so one is your u of s, right? So this would basically give you u of t, and this would give you e power at, right? So therefore they have written it something like this, that e power a t minus tau b u tau t tau. So this is from the convolution part of it, right? And this is, I think, the zero order response, that is your e power at x 0. So then the idea is that if you actually go to some tf, then it should be e bar atf into x of 0 plus this thing, and you're integrating from 0 to tf, right? E bar atf minus tau ep u tau d tau. So that's your x of tf. Now by definition what they said is that if you reach steady state of tf, right, that should be 0. So therefore you're putting 0 instead of x of tf, and from there you get this equation for x of 0, that is, it is the integral. And then you just try to express your e power minus e tau in the form of like, you would try to expand it, so in terms of different functions. So let's take it as some, like, see, according to what is the e power x expansion, it is 1 plus x upon 1 factorial x square upon 2 factorial and so on, right? So similarly, if you try to write for e power minus e tau, right, that should be uh, 1 minus a tau plus a square tau square upon 2 factorial and so on, right? So this thing that you got, why not write this as alpha naught tau, right? And then this minus tau, let's write as plus alpha 1 tau into a plus let's say alpha 2 tau into a square and so on. So then basically your e power minus a tau becomes a summation from alpha k tau a to the power k, and your k is from, I think, 0 to infinity, but we're not taking till infinity, consider some n minus 1. So what's the normal expansion if you just try to, okay, so it is still some n only. That means I am a, but still infinity they're saying. Yeah, the McLaurin series is an infinite Taylor series, especially given by this. The series converges for all real and complex values. So yeah, it is still infinity only. But here we are taking till some n minus n. The reason behind is probably that uh, because it will only be controllable in some finite time. So let us take till some finite term that we are aware of, right? Uh, so then you are just replacing this whole thing in place of e bar minus e tau, right? And then you have u tau d tau, and then what you can do is as these things are not a part of the integral, so you can just take these and then this whole integral is what they're considering as beta k, and then the idea is that this is basically the matrix. This a bar k b is the matrix with the help of which you'll be able to control the whole system. So therefore, that's your controllability matrix. And if that is zero, that means the system is not controllable, right? Like if this can be expressed in some Ecleon form, if I try to express it, and if I get even like if I get that this is not my full is if I get that this is not a full rank matrix, then I would lose control of any like I would lose control of any of these beta 0 to beta n minus 1, right? And then my system would become uncontrollable. So the only idea to look at is you figure out the controllability matrix and then you check the determinant of it. If that's not equal to 0, that means it's controllable. Otherwise, it's not, right? So it's all a very basic question. It says that your x dot is equal to uh, 0, 1, minus 1, minus 2 into x plus 0, 1, u. So this is a E matrix and this is a B matrix. So I have to figure out EB. So basically 0, 1, minus 1, minus 2 into 0, 1. So it is basically 0, 0, and 1, and minus 1, minus 2. And then my QC would be B and EB. What's my B? It is 0 and 1. And this is my EB. So that's my QC. And then if I try to figure out the determinant of QC, this would be minus 1, which means that is non-zero and therefore the system is controllable. So that was my Kalman's test. Um, there's something else called the Gilbert test of controllability. So let's again go ahead with this same equation, that is x dot equal to x plus bu. Now the idea is that if I take some linear transformation, my x equal to some mk, right, where my m is the model matrix. So then how would this equation change? Again, now write x dot equal to a mk plus bu, right? And okay, so I think that now the idea is that we are introducing a new space, like like it's been scaled to some matrix m, and then we are doing it. I think So then what is your k then? It is m inverse x. And then if I try to write k dot, it will be m inverse into x dot, right? And so now if I try to put this in the equation, uh, this, and if I try to put this in the equation, so I have my k, right? And what is my x dot? It will be m into k dot, right? It will be simply m into k dot, that is equal to a into mk, right? Plus bu. Okay, so now if I take m inverse, now if I just take m inverse, right? So this becomes k dot equal to m inverse amk plus m inverse b into u. So now I have a change in both of these matrices. That is this controllability, this A matrix becomes M inverse A, and the other one becomes M inverse B, right? So now this can be written as some new A matrix and some new transformed B matrix. So it's just a linear transformation, right? And this particular thing where M inverse A is a diagonal matrix, so we're able to write it in this form: lambda 1 0 0, then lambda 2, then lambda n, right? So I think it's again a very similar condition, which is about that you are trying to control the input vector, and you won't be able to control the input vector if any element of bi goes to zero, right? So basically, this new matrix that you have, what is your bi? It is m inverse b, right? So you won't be able to control the system if any element of bi should be it goes to zero for the diagonal canonical form. So there will be no connection between the input and the corresponding state variable. So therefore, in that case, the system is going to be uncontrollable. I will solve some numerical to get hold of this particular idea. Just give me 2 minutes, I'll come back. Uh, Hello. So I'm back. Yeah. So as they talked about this particular idea, which said that what happened. Yeah. Okay. So the idea that we just saw now from the Gilbert's test, which is just about taking a linear transformation and all of that. So it's that you are trying to reach some x of ts using some control input, right? And if you lose hold of the control input, right, so then you won't be able to control the system, right? And if you're not able to control the system, then that means what that means? That means all of your effort is in vain. So therefore, to ensure controllability, you need to make sure that none of these elements in the modified B matrix goes to zero, right? So because then there will be no connection between the input and the corresponding state variable. So let's just solve one problem. And there's this concept of Jordan block as well that I'll have to read on. Uh, it says that in case of Jordan block, elements of any row of okay, just a second. Okay, so there's this concept of Jordan block where they're saying that I can have repeated poles actually. And in case of Jordan block, elements of any row of B. So they're saying that if you have repeated eigenvalues, then elements of any row of B which correspond to the last row of Jordan block and not all zero. Okay, so the idea is this that let's say let's say your x dot is equal to 0, 1, minus 4, minus 4 into x plus 1 to u, right? So now if I try to find eigenvalues, okay, so if I do that, what will be my eigenvalues? It will be lambda, because this will be minus lambda, will be minus lambda minus 4, which is lambda to lambda plus 4, right? So what it should be lambda I minus a, right? So this becomes lambda square plus 4 lambda plus 4 equal to 0. And so it's just there are two repeated poles, right? Minus 2 and minus 2, right? So then you try to make the model matrix. See what I had studied before. So the model matrix is nothing but the eigenvector. So if you try to figure out the eigenvector, it will be minus 2. Corresponding to this particular matrix, if you try to find out. So it should be, which one is my eraser here? Okay, this one. So the idea is that if you try to do A minus lambda, right? So this is your A matrix. So these are your lambda, right? So this would be 2, 1, minus 2, and minus 4 into x1 into x2. So what you get is that your 2x1 plus x2 should be equal to 0, right? That's what you're getting. So basically your 2x1 equal to minus x2. So your x1 and x2 is minus 1 by 2. You can take your x1 as minus 1, you can take your x2 as 2, right? Or you can just take 1 minus 2 as well, right? That also works. So basically M1 would be 1 and minus 2. Now the idea is that how do you figure out M2? So is it allowed to write like just another eigenvalue? See, there is some method called the van der Waals method, which I'm not aware of at this point, but that says that I can just directly write my M1 as 1 and lambda, like for a particular eigenvalue, I can do this, and then my M2 would just be d lambda of this 1 and lambda. Basically, this would be 1 1. Okay, sorry, very sorry, 0 1. So, fine, if that's how your M looks like, and then you try to construct your M inverse B. Okay, so this is your Jordan block, right? Repeated eigenvalues, and that's your Jordan block. So the last element is what you need to check. Only the last row of the Jordan block. Okay, I think I understood that in case of Jordan block, you don't need to check all the rows, right? Then you can have zeros, but you can't have a zero in the last row, right? The last row is only important in the rules. Yeah, I got it. Okay, so we're done till lecture 7. Lecture 8 is what I need to study. Okay, just by the way, stream is named something like mohe gerua. This doesn't at all relate to any of my political views. I don't have any political views per se, because I would rather like to say that I don't understand it much, because I'm not involved, and as I'm not involved, it's just for fun, right? It's something different and nothing else actually. Every party is more or less the same. Everybody does similar kind of politics. Like, the ideas could be different, but uh, the overall effect on people is not very different. It's more or less similar. So any party comes or any party goes is not a very big concern for any of us. Actually, because when you get power in hand, everybody likes to misuse it. That's the basic human nature. So the point is that the stream is named like that just for fun, not anything serious, right? Okay, so as we saw for controllability, similarly for observability, that is that if every state x of t naught can be completely identified by measurements of the y of t over a finite time interval. So again, like let's say if you have some x of t naught, so till x of t f, till all of this time, if I am able to observe all the states, so I observe, so how do you observe a state? You try to measure it, right? Try to measure the states. If you're able to measure the states, right, then the system is called observable. Right? So system is observable and every state x of t naught can be determined from the observation of y of t over a finite time interval. So I think it's again the same, but the difference is that this time your observability matrix changes. So you have very similar derivation for observability as well, I guess. And but the derivation is a bit different. Okay, so this time we are concerned with y, we are no more concerned with x, because now we need to measure it, right? And finally, that's what you got in y, right? And if you get this in y, so then to observe it, uh, final thing that you get is this particular matrix, basically. So if that's your control, that's your observability matrix. It's given by q, so q equal to c a square till ca to the power minus 1, right? So a rank of q0 is n, it's just the order of the system, right? So let's just go through this very basic example, which is something like this, that your x dot is given by this. So then you just try to construct c and c of a. So if you try to do ca, so it will be 1 1 0 1 minus 2 minus 3, and then 1 0 1 minus 2 minus 2, and then okay, this is what is like uh, so then this becomes 1 1 1 minus 3, so minus 2, right? So that is your ca. So then what would be your o? Your o would be c. What was your c? It was 1 1 minus 2 minus 2, and again very similar thing. Here also there's dependency, so your determinant cannot be 0. Basically it needs to be a full rank matrix. So if you find out the determinant of qo, it will be 0, because when both of the angles are same. Therefore this was an unobservable system. And your Gilbert has again similar stuff actually, but the idea is a bit different. That is, for observability, you cannot have you know any element of a new C matrix as 0. And how do you get the new C matrix? How do you get the new C matrix? So new C matrix is something but Cm, right? New C matrix is just Cm, because you had y equal to Cx, and your linear transformation is just x equal to mk, right? You had y equal to Cx, and your linear transformation is x equal to mk. So then your y would be Cmk, right? So you will be able to measure k, right, with the help of y, if no element of this modified. So this thing we will write as some new c into k. So none elements of this particular matrix should go to 0. So if you're given this kind of question, let's say your x dot is equal to 0 1 minus 2 minus 3 to x plus 0 1 u, and y is equal to 1 0 x. So I need to figure out m at first, right? So to figure out m, I need to have the eigenvalues of this particular matrix, the eigenvalues, and how do you figure them out? Using this. Okay, so if you have two different eigenvalues, it is simply 1 lambda 1, 1 lambda 2, right? If you have repeated eigenvalues, that is when the first one is 1 lambda 1, right? The second one changes and it becomes dd lambda of 1 lambda 1, right? Or d lambda 1 of 1 lambda 1, which is nothing but 1 1, it's fixed, right? But in this case, that's not the case. You have two different eigenvalues. If you try to figure out the eigenvalues for this particular matrix, you would actually have lambda. So basically, you would have lambda into lambda plus 3 plus 2 equal to 0. So it would be lambda square plus 3 lambda plus 2 equal to 0. And then you would get lambda equal to minus 1 and minus 2. So your M matrix is nothing but 1 minus 1, 1 minus 2. Right? That's a ring matrix. And then This is your M, and what was your C? The C was given as I think 10 or something. Yeah, your C is 10. So what is your CM? It is 10, 11, minus 1, minus 2. This would be 1, and this would be again 1. Right? So in this case, none of the elements are 0, so therefore this is also 0. Okay. Okay, let's have a small break. Maybe I can play a game for some small time. So we're done with the first 8 lectures, and not much is left. Okay, now still quite some is left. I forgot. Yeah, we still have 25% also over and above. Now once you're done with that, you'll be done with the midterm thing, and then you focus on the midterm. But who the hell comes and likes my stream? Why the hell do people watch this here? There's a lot of other work that those people can do. Right? Sleep. This is not the time when you stay awake. Let's look at the derivation of karma in science. Okay, no. Match started. यार अब कोई देख रहा है तो बहुत बेकार हो जाएगा फिर तो यार देखना बंद करो यार जो भी देख रहा हूँ मत देखो मुझे नहीं पता कौन देख रहा है तो मत देखो भाई lot of better things you can do in life वो करो टू यार इसके बाद कौन सा लेक्चर आता है yeah, so you integrate it and okay. Now see, the difference between the controllability proof and the observability proof is that The controllability proof says that you're trying to control the state from x of t naught to x of tf using some control input, that is some u, right? But here, there's no need for a control input because here it's not about control, it's about measurement. Like if I have some x of t naught and I want to observe that particular state for some finite time interval, I should be able to do it. So therefore, this u of tau could just go to zero, and this whole integral goes to zero, right? And you're only left with c a bar df x naught, right? And therefore, there's a change in the equation for x and for y both, right? And then you could just represent your e bar a tau in the very standard form that we've seen before as well. And okay, then the idea is that see, now this is my equation, right? Now when can I observe it at x of tf? From x of 0, I need to observe it. So then, if any element of this particular CAK goes to 0, right, then that particular state I cannot observe. Because in the output, that state won't exist. Because if anything from this particular matrix goes to 0, then it will be multiplied and that state will just not be present in the output, right? If that's not present, I won't be able to observe it, which clearly means that I should not have any row of this particular matrix to be 0. That is a full rank matrix is what I would need. And as I need a full rank matrix, I need to make sure that the determinant does not go to 0. It's a very general property. And that's your Kalman's test. For Gilbert's test, what you have is just a second. Get my mother's call and probably mute the audio. यार पर जो भी देख रही है स्ट्रीम मत देखो मैं चैट में लिख दूंगा मत देखो स्ट्रीम जिसने भी लाइक करा है ऐसा नहीं बोलना चाहिए ना क्योंकि फिर मैं क्यों यूट्यूब पे कर रहा हूँ मैं तो इसलिए कर रहा हूँ क्योंकि तुम अकेला रहता तो मैं कुछ नहीं पढ़ाई करता मुझे लगा मैं कैमरा लगाऊंगा तो मैं कुछ पढ़ाई करने लग जाऊंगा एटलीस्ट चलो अभी गेम खेल लेते हैं सब बाहर नहीं जाने देते हैं ओह शिट गोल पड़ गई यार मुझे तो कम बैक करना पड़ेगा तो बहुत गंदा खेल रहा हूँ उसमें। दो गोल पड़ गए। ऐसा कैसा हो रहा है? अबे लैग क्यों कर रहा है ये? अरे लैग क्यों कर रहा है? ये नहीं समझ आता। जो ये देख रहा है उसने नोटिफिकेशन ऑन कर रखा है अपना फोन। ये पागल तो नहीं होगा? सही बात है। हालांकि कोई अभी देख नहीं रहा है। इससे इससे चलता है। क्या मैं चेक। ओके। अच्छा मेरा मेरा इंस्टीट्यूट का वाईफाई कम हो गया। यार लैपटॉप बता रहा है तो फोन पे क्यों नहीं आ रहा? इसमें चल रहा है ना, कुछ भी सर्च वर्च कर रहे हो तो। फोन पे क्या हो गया? चलिए अभी फिर से आ रहा है। 5 सेकंड के लिए डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया। ठीक है ठीक है। है। Today's the birthday of one of my friends. I'm very happy because of that. Tell me one thing. If you have a uh, if you have a matrix and okay, let's say for a y verse, if you have let's say you have let's say 50 buses and 20% elements non-zero, then how many connections? It's on 225. Yeah, it's correct. It's correct only. It's simple, no? Because see, one bus, so because between one bus and the other bus, you can have so it's like 50 C2 connections, right? So basically, it's how much 15 to 49 upon 2, 49 to 25. It's how much 12 25, 12 25 का 20%, मतलब 225. नहीं नहीं 49 इंटू कितना बोला तुम 25. हाँ हाँ सो 45 आया ना. And what was n square? Yeah, correct. 2500 elements. Non-zero is 500, but there's so off diagonal are like 450. Correct. Because your off diagonals are never zero, right? If you have a connection between y1 2, that also counts between y2 1, right? Like that is counted as a single transmission line, right? So if you are trying to figure out the number of transmission lines, that's half of the actual connections that exist, right? So that would be half of 450. Makes sense. अरे यार मेरा कनेक्शन इतना घटिया क्यों है किसे कनेक्ट भी नहीं कर पा रहा मैं एक मैच नहीं खेल पा रहा यार अब तो दिमाग खराब हो रहा है क्या ही दिक्कत है मैं अपने अपने इंटरनेट से करने का ट्राई करता हूँ ना मोबाइल के डेटा से वाईफाई को जाने देते हैं क्या इशू है यार मुझे एक मैच खेलना है ठीक है रुक अगला स्लाइड भेज के फिर करता हूँ नहीं तो पढ़ लूँगा थोड़ा इट इज इन which E27 no this one right so 9 slide let me upload share drive okay for that I again need to get Wi-Fi for a second because otherwise that doesn't get uploaded on the drive. Yeah, so here we go. Okay, so this is regarding pole placement. So till now we just talked about control. Here now we'll actually see that how can I control, right? Because if I'm trying to take system from some state to some other state, right? There are certain ways of doing it, right? So one of the very famous ways is pole placement. Something I saw before as well. So what you do is, you actually apply some control law to, to the state basically. So it's like some kx that goes, and you have already the u vector. So your x dot, your input becomes something like u minus kx, right? Yeah. This thing actually, this is the controller that we'll be using. This is your GFS and it's your X dot. Yeah, so that is generally, uh, the point is that if you change this U to some minus KCX plus I, if you just replace it, your A matrix would change. It would become A minus KC, right? And so, as the A matrix changes, so it becomes A minus BKC, right? And you have to find the characteristic equation for that particular matrix, and you know what the desired characteristic equation is, and then you have to compare both of them and get the values of k1, k2, and so on. So you look at this example. These are not desired. So from here you can actually figure out the desired characteristic equation because you have all the roots, right? Like here your sum of roots is minus 2, your product is minus 1 plus g1 minus 1 minus g1, so it's minus 1 square minus g square, right? Which is 0. Right? Yeah. And then you will consider some k1, k2, k3 because k vector you definitely need to figure out how much it is. Um, b for b is given as this. That is very easy, right? That is very easy. Yeah, what you can see the whole matrix changes. A is a n cross n matrix, right? So that's your control law. No, this is I think a very normal thing that we have. So the idea is that I can actually control this input thing. I can make that look like this. Like I can make the input space dependent. That's my control law. Understood. So finally, I've found an opponent. So start playing. I don't know where I think I should sleep for some time maybe. What a free kick. Let's try to score from the free kick. That was such a good free kick. Still well saved. Close. Fine. Eh, I just want to give a pass. Why did he shoot? Maybe the reason when you're not shared goes attack or whatever. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. गोल पड़ गई यार ऐसे कैसे होगा something like is working for didn't work for me yesterday as well in the exam. It was terrible. Such easy questions and I messed up. Shit. Half time and I'm trailing by a goal. So what was the final? What was the final tally for? West Bengal's elections. Let's check. Bro, Mamata actually got defeated. That is something. BJP won 206 seats. I think there are total 293 now. Because I think Falta is not being contested. That's going to happen on 21st or something. This time I had to serious. I had to score a goal, or at least draw the match. And I scored. I scored so quick in 3 minutes. Such a good strike from Harry Kane. It's perfect. But I'm still thinking, who the hell is awake at 6? Today though I just woke up because I slept mistakenly yesterday, maybe at 10 or something. After giving a terrible exam tomorrow, I felt that in the next paper I at least need to do something because I had such a bad paper yesterday. It's the worst intern that I've ever written. No, not the worst. Like it's close. Like it's a contender for the worst actually. Last year I wrote the PAL electronic exam. It was equally bad, and this time this numerical methods. My God, my God, my God! I was saved. Alexander Arnold hit such a nice shot. I was saved by the post. Shit! Scored a goal, but on offside. How was he off? That's inches. That's just a leg. My God. I scored my second goal, and I'm leading. Yep, 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 yep. How? This was also off. just 8 minutes left, and I have to defend this one goal lead somehow. They have 2 minutes and they are playing passes in their own half.
Added minutes has been indicated.
What kind of a strategy is this? And I won the match. Yeah, yeah. Okay. Let me send the next slide and play another match. Mm, the 10th one. And share this one also. Share. Okay. So this.
Just a quick
How do I get this? I'm gonna try it.
refrain from parking outside this stadium. Thank you very much for your cooperation.
This one is the 10th one. Design of state feedback controller using pole placement approach. Okay, so we have some generalized formula which is called the Ackermann formula. It's for controllability, right? This is completely for controllability. But I think this comes from that only, like the pole placement thing only. But it's just to generalize the formula. That's what I think. Let me see the next slide as well. It's very this is the one that I opened. But I uploaded two now. Yeah, this one. Introduction to tracking problem and state feedback design. Something called tracking problem. Okay. Okay. Go through this. And till this I can understand. It's very standard. Uh, yeah. I is the reference. Right? Fine. Yeah, this is pretty easy. But then now this new A matrix you would try to find. This is your data equation. Fine. So then we're saying that this case you will be giving us this formula. That's the idea of this common formula. So then you get your phi of A And then your A is different. Your A is not the old A, right? Your A is now changed. It's actually minus BKC, right? What was the Killian multiple Java? It was something like this that square matrix, will always follow. If you replace the characteristic equation, if you replace lambda by A, it's still valid. Something like that. Okay, so they did A squared. They got something. Phi of this A bar can be expressed as this thing. Okay. Why did the set this equal to 0? Oh, because that will be satisfied. That's why. Okay. And then once they got this, we just replaced phi of A. Okay, okay. Got it. That is a really cool derivation. It's really cool. Look at two order system and just did everything for that. So it's quite cool. What's the condition? Mhm. Yes, the way to do it is simple. Like you just get the desired equation and whatever your P minus BTC matrix is, right? So this is to follow that particular equation, right? Like your new matrix, I'm saying. This is your desired equation. This needs to be followed by that particular A, and this is the original A, right? So the idea is that your phi of A bar needs to be equal to 0. Doing another notch, then you will do. But if phi of A would also be equal to 0, no? then phi of A should also equal to 0, isn't it? It's after 0. What I'm saying is what he has done here. This thing that he has taken, there should be phi of A bar. No? You should write this as phi of A bar because this is for the desired equation. So this for A minus BKC already. Yeah, fine. So the problem is that why is it taking it for phi of A? Okay, I don't know. Okay, so the confusion is that what I was trying to say is that this seems like phi of a bar because and in the formula like, if you see the derivation properly, then what we can see is we have taken phi of a, right? Like in the derivation, the desired equation you don't get directly. You apply the control law and then you get the desired equation, right? So then uh, confusion is that yeah. So you this is for a minus bkc, and this particular equation that you're getting should be equal to this characteristic equation of my a bar and not a, right? And as it is with a bar, so it is my phi of a bar that needs to go to 0. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, okay, so I got it. So you are saying that it is phi of a, it's not phi of a bar. So if I need to take phi of a, I should find the characteristic equation of the original matrix and take. That's what you're saying, no? Yeah. Like this is my changed matrix. I shouldn't take this. Okay, fine. Hmm. Okay, let's ask this to GPT. Can you copy this? Yeah. So you are saying phi of a, so I should refer to the original and Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, so you found five way using the desired catch equation, right? Not the original A. Then how is it five of it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. What's the system for the desired one? Let's go back to the derivation again, maybe. We can get some insight there. What is your phi of A? Is there anyhow decided by the heuristic equation? Alright. Hmm. Fine. That's also fine. Hmm. Okay, phi of A minus BK, we need 0.